Hello everybody and welcome back to another, this time it's not a One Piece review, I was about to say that, but welcome back to an Attack on Titan review. I know I'm kind of getting to Attack on Titan kind of late in the game, but I always intended to do these reviews of these chapters, but I kind of didn't, when I started to when I caught up I was about 134, 135, so I just really didn't have a chance to do it so far. But this chapter is a doozy, and right off the bat, I don't want to, I don't want to veer off too much on other tangents, because this was a very meaty chapter, and really should be only focusing on what's on the chapter, in this video. But I have to say that I am really ashamed of the comments, at least on that, on the chapter so far. I mean, the general populace of people don't ever seem to understand any concept whatsoever. They want Eren to eradicate all of humanity. I don't know what's going on with people, man. There's some pretty messed up people out there. I can kind of understand why people want Eren to eradicate humanity. I think it's mainly because, we see too many series like Naruto and Black Clover where, the chippy protagonist, comes from the slums and works his way up and whatever, and there's no real consequences, and, you know what I mean? So I think people are just tired of that trope. So I think that's what it is. But man, if someone could explain why the people are so messed up in those comments, they just don't, they're power scalers. I don't know. They don't want Eren to die, but they're fine with Eren dying. It's very divisive chapter, and a very divisive, this ending to this series will split the fan base. Just like the animation, I guarantee it. So, I actually wrote notes, because it's pretty insane, the things that go on in this chapter. I think it's pretty important that we got we got the things we have about Zeke, the closure, the full character circle. I mean, it's fantastic. I mean, it's some of the best writing in the series. I actually, I hate Zeke. I feel like his plan was so flawed and didn't make about a lick of sense. But then when, like, Zeke died, spoilers, I guess. I mean, obviously you're clicking on the video, right? Zeke's death was something, So right off the bat, we'll talk about that later. But right off the bat, I love the, apparent, when we look at the dialogue, and we kind of look at the images of those weird, like life, existed to multiply kind of conversation. Those things look very similar to what attached onto Ymir when she fell down that well, so I wonder if the Titans have been around, or the concept of Titan DNA has been around since the beginning of time, and it's just, what a Titan is an accumulation of all sorts of DNA, put together, and so you have this composite of DNA that you can just, it's like a mutation, right? I'm not exactly sure why all of humanity wasn't affected, but it is similar to the lineage factor, though. When I was thinking about, like, with One Piece, how they use that DNA in order to create apparently devil fruits. So I like how there is similarities to other grounded series. And then Zeke goes into further about the meaning of life, which I didn't think that from last week's chapter that we'd be getting a meaning of life conversation with Zeke and Armin, and this is done so much better than say the Naruto and Obito thing, and I hate to have to bring up another series like that, but this is where this series shines, right? Because there is no Takano Jutsu. Zeke does not change. His ideals do not change. I don't even know if he's helping, consciously anymore at this point. It seems like he's doing it subconsciously, right? Yeah, so, he goes into further detail about, he kind of is like the stillness, right? Like I'm not, he wants to just, be like a rest, just have the status quo be the same thing. You know, that's his way of peace, is to just stop. Apparently all humans. I thought it was just the Eldians, but maybe it is all humans from multiplying and, you know, just having humanity slowly die off, I guess. So it's interesting how him and Eren have a similar ideal, but I think Zeke was more like peaceful, not getting, you know, turned into a pancake like those kids. You know, haunting stuff that Eren does. I mean, if Eren even survives this, why would he want to live? Yeah, so it's interesting that, you know, after this conversation, you know, Zeke kind of actually does say what Ymir's, like, what she feels, you know, even though he says he doesn't actually reach that conclusion. I do think it's pretty important that Ymir is actually, like her goals are somewhat, at least, kind of explained more. Like, why did she want to end humanity? Well, she has this attachment, as, you know, she's seeing through all these Titan Shifters' eyes, you know, the worst parts of humanity, because their world is way more messed up than ours, obviously, but as a Titan Shifter, you know, your world's even more messed up. So, through her eyes, you know, you can see an extermination of, you know, humanity kind of does make sense, right? And it's interesting, Ymir's kind of like this person in between, right? She doesn't want to be alone. You know, she wants to be useful. You know, maybe that's why she was so loyal. You know, that's kind of what, you know, Zeke was alluding to, is maybe she was loyal because, you know, he doesn't even know, right? And it's maybe, you know, he's kind of alluding to possibly, you know, Ymir created, you know, it was an escape, you know, just like Attack on Titan is an escape for people like me and maybe you, from the reality of the world. So did she, when she created paths, so, you know, and you can really live forever in paths in a way. I guess paths is a very confusing thing, and I kind of wish we didn't have it and it didn't exist, but you know, here we are. And it kind of makes me think too, at the end of this chapter, if Ymir is actually going to be like a main threat or the main antagonist after, or maybe if Eren dies, you know, I don't know. But like I said, you know, I like how Zeke even, you know, it's cool. He admits his faults though. He's like, man, like, I didn't know that Ymir still had an attachment to the real world, and that was kind of cool. He's still playing with sand. Man's lost his mind. Kind of reminds me of when Raynor just wanted to die. So there's foreshadowing too of Zeke's, you know, demise, I guess you could say, in this chapter. It's interesting too that the pass, the tree, the end pass, is very similar to, you know, symbolically to that tree, you know, that is in paradise, you know, when they talk, you know, when Eren, Mikasa, and Armin, you know, are running up the hill, you know, to actually try to find this tree, you know, to actually race up this tree and race up this hill as the sunset was, you know, was happening. I can't, you know, think that maybe there was this connection, right? And then Armin also, like, you know, it's interesting because Ymir is watching this whole conversation. She's watching everything, right? She's essentially become God. You know, Eren says that she's a person, but I mean, it's a very omnipotent person, right? And it's interesting because, you know, he finds this leaf, you know, and to him, that leaf's important. You know, he says, Armin actually says, like, you know, maybe life, you know, is just for the smaller moments. You know, and I like how this conversation makes sense. Zeke is an intellect, you know, an intellectual person will listen to the other side, you know, not necessarily to change your ideals, which is great. I love that Zeke didn't change his ideals all the way up till his death. But, you know, Armin got to him in the way that he's like saying, Zeke is already somebody that is about materialistic things when it came to some things. You know, he did value the lighter things, and I think we all do. So I like how that Armin was saying, you know, even if there's no reason, you know, to multiply, you know, these things are still precious. You know, it's like a baseball or a leaf, you know, it can't multiply, but it doesn't matter, you know, it still holds a very important value, you know, to somebody, you know, and that can be passed down just like Zeke's glasses even. So it is pretty important, you know, some of the things that are brought up. And I can't, when I was thinking about that conversation, what Armin was alluding to, I was just thinking about that Family Guy episode, oddly enough, with the vault, and, you know, Brian was going to kill himself, and Stewie says, you know, maybe living, you know, for somebody else, and, you know, the joy of, you know, maybe just being there for one person, or maybe just, you know, just that one little thing, you know, for that one person to keep going. Maybe that's just enough. So it's kind of interesting. It's like, you know, Armin's a very minimalistic person, you know, and it's interesting because if Erwin was the one that lived, like in season 3, I don't know if this would have escalated, but I think, oddly enough, bringing Armin back might have been the best choice now, even though it wasn't looking like that for a while. There's an awesome looking panel too of this Warhammer Titan, you know, with the scythe, and like that mask looks like a Keyskin, or I can't remember his name exactly, from Bleach. You know, he has that hockey mask kind of look when he's hollowed. But it's interesting, you know. Another thing that I just kind of like popped in my head was that Jean and Peck are in a lot of panels together, like surprisingly a lot of panels the last couple of chapters. I don't think they'll survive this. I really don't. I don't think anyone's going to survive this, because, I mean, there's 2 chapters left. There's 2 bloody chapters left. Everyone's probably going to get wiped out, right? But I can't help but think that, you know, I'm a big Peck fan, so it's kind of like I would like to see her happy, and I'd like to see her with Jean. I think it's a pretty good pairing. So Berthel, Marcel, Barco, you know, Galliard, which, you know, I kind of look a tiny bit like Galliard, you know, minus the, you know, mustache. Kruger, or the owl, you know, Ymir, not the founder, you know, Gresha, you know, Zeke's mentor, you know, they all actually help. And they're there in past too, so I don't know if maybe Zeke was like, you know, that epiphany or that deep-seated passion he had was what like just sparked everything up. I don't know. You know, we're not, you know, there's 2 more chapters, right? So, right, and then Gabby actually takes out, I guess, an ancient, you know, the one that swallowed Armin, but it's like an ancient cart titan, I'm assuming. Shoots it in the eye, you know, and it like kind of falls back down. And then Mikasa, you know, cuts its, you know, throat, I guess. You know, it's hard to tell, right? And Armin comes out. And then I like how it continues to keep going. Stabs Armin through the leg with its tongue. Which, you know, cows have long tongues. So that's kind of cool. And then it's like Coney comes in there and slashes it. You know, and Armin actually used a Thunder Spear. So, you know, definitely a cool moment for Armin. Armin rarely gets these kind of moments, right? And then, you know, it's interesting, you know, Zeke actually is like, you know, hey, look, I'm here, you know, and it makes sense that the rumbling would stop. I don't quite understand why people don't, you know, like the fact that the rumbling's stopping, right? But he is a royal, and he is the link between him and Ymir, so, I mean, Ymir can actually keep moving forward and killing everyone, right? But Eren is a different story. I mean, he can't use the Founding Titan unless, you know, he has that royalness. So, you know, I don't know, maybe he has a plan with Historia or some crap, but I kind of, you know, she's had a long life too, so I kind of want her to not be a part of this. Yeah, so, you know, the dialogue and the look on his face, if you've ever seen, had to watch All Quiet on the Western Front as a World War I movie for history class, there's a scene where the soldier at the end, you know, he's like, you know, the war is going on, right? And he finally looks, and he has this look, and he's like, you know, I think his friend died, and he's like, oh, you know, it's like, enough, right? And he sees this like bird, and he wants to draw it, and he does, and he picks up his, you know, pencil, and he starts drawing it, and then because he takes off his helmet, he gets killed, you know. And this was the second emotional part of the chapter. I don't even like Zeke, man. Like, so if Peck dies, or if Falco dies, which I really hope he doesn't, but he's flying around too much, you know, I don't know how I'm going to feel. But this definitely feels like a direct reference to All Quiet on the Western Front, how Zeke goes like, oh, it's a beautiful day. I wish I'd realized that. You know, he's not saying, like, I wish I went back on my word, or I wish I did this differently. I think he does about the spinal fluid and Colt, definitely, you know, Colt's death. But it is interesting that Zeke is like, wow, you know, I'm kind of ready. You know, and he does mention something about how, you know, is somebody going to feel relief and freedom, you know, when they die? And there's, you know, and I love how Levi finally, you know, puts that final nail in the coffin. He's finally able to get over, you know, Erwin's death now, and to actually fulfill his last, you know, wish, which was to, you know, take down the Beast Titan. You know, so I love his death. I think they did you know, Isama did a really good job with it. So props, you know. I think the Warhammer Titans too were pretty cool in this chapter, because of course, you know, remember that tale how, you know, the Warhammer Titan was, you know, facing off against all 8 Titans, and, you know, I guess it overpowered him, or, you know, King Fritz kind of used his powers to, you know, kind of, you know, have everyone's mind erased, and then he took the Founding Titan with him, because I guess he was the Founding Titan. So it's interesting that all the other Titans, you know, most of the other shifters, you know, but the main force is definitely the Warhammer, which, you know, in the myth, you know, in ancient times, during the Titan War, you know, the Warhammer was, you know, prevalent during that time. And then it's like, I'm not quite sure why Zeke didn't really use the shifters, you know, like, you know, use, like, just, like, their abilities before he died. I don't know why the shifters all of a sudden, like, just started being awakened. Like, I wish there's an explanation, but I don't know, but I'm not going to judge it just yet. I mean, other people are already judging it, but, I mean, there's 2 more chapters, which is, like, 88 pages, kind of roughly. So that's quite a lot of material, you know, so I don't know. I don't know why he did that. I like that Jean's the one that puts Eren down, and I also like how it's very plausible that Eren may be dead, because it's not just the explosion; it's the explosion from the Colossal Titan, you know. Or if he does live, you know, I could see him being a very small, like, blob, you know, maybe just regenerating, and then, you know, we have a scene like, you know, Levi puts the blade just like he did with Zeke. I don't know. Maybe Eren. I think Eren was kind of weakened in the sense that, you know, obviously he got his head shot off by Gabby, but he was also kind of just weakened like Raynor was, how he was just like, oh, I just want to die, you know. And I think Eren was just so, he had so many mixed emotions about everything that he was just like, I'm done, you know. So I think that's what was going on. I don't know where the series is going to go. It's pretty amazing. I just have no idea. I think this was a 10 out of 10 chapter. I don't usually say that about chapters, but I think it had everything in it. I mean, people were just complaining like left and right, but you know what? I found it to be a great chapter. It was it wrote up and kind of wrapped up Zeke, which is a character that is pretty fascinating, even if he is pretty despicable and evil. He even says it before he dies. He's like, oh, I shouldn't feel relief, you know, because I killed so many people. So really, really great chapter. I can't wait for the next 2 chapters. And, well, I'll see you guys till next time. Bye.